Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it is going to turn more humid and warm once again through the weekend into the start of next week. But we are going to see one change that is becoming more apparent. It could become pretty thundery indeed as we see more small scale low pressure systems involved. So yes, could be pretty warm with the sunshine, could feel like mid to high 20s again through the weekend into next week, but we are likely to see quite a few thunderstorms, and it is increasing in intensity and its widespread nature with every run. We saw hints yesterday of those thunderstorms, and in today's UKV it's even more widespread through Sunday and Monday. As we look at the longer range, that sort of pattern is looking like it could continue into early September. Still warm, like we have been alluded to over the past week or so. That signal has been very strong. It still looks warm. It just looks like we could be down more of a thundery pattern than down the route with higher pressure and bone dry conditions. Now, some people would like that. Some people enjoy thunderstorms. Some people would like that rain. Others would like a little bit more of an extension of those drier, summery conditions. It's still going to be warm. We avoid the storms. It'll still be decent, but it just unfortunately does look like we could be seeing quite a few hefty storms, as we do see low pressure and generally these small scale low pressure systems, these cut-off lows continuing to stay close by. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, to start on the live radar, we've had a fairly dry day today. That is Thursday. Temperatures have been warm, but nothing too exceptional, as we have seen a cold front sweeping through last night, pushing away that very humid air we had for Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, you can see this evening, running this around 10 PM, it is fairly dry. A few showers in the north, that's expected with this westerly flow. If we look at the temperatures, you can see it isn't particularly cold, but it's not particularly warm, generally average conditions. One thing you will start to notice over the next couple of weeks is generally these overnight temperatures will start to drop away. We'll see a lot more blues, and that is inevitable as we see longer nights and we do start to see cooler air masses generally starting to push in. Even though it is still looking above average into next week, above average next week is probably average back in July. So we are starting to see that slow descent towards cooler evenings. So yeah, we are going to start seeing more blues on the charts. And as that sun sets over the next couple of weeks, unless we did really see some proper humid air moving in, it will start to feel a little bit more nippy. But as I said, it's inevitable. We are now heading slowly into autumn. Now, to have a look at the latest UKV, you can see as we head into Friday, it's another pretty dry day and actually looks quite pleasant. And the wind is starting to veer up from the south, so warm air will start to be pushing in, and it will be a pretty decent day for all. Temperatures probably won't be too exceptional in the north, but it's still got some fresher air, but it will be, as I said, very pleasant. Lots of sunshine, temperatures widely high teens to low 20s. As we head into Saturday, similar conditions, not too bad, but we start to see the risk of a few thundery showers in the far south starting to come on shore. So yeah, a few heavy thundery showers about, further northwards turning drier and sunnier. But of course, with those thunderstorms, it is in that more humid, hotter air. So we'll see kind of the best of both conditions, that warm, humid air, and we do see sunshine further northwards. We could see another very pleasant day. But that small-scale low-pressure system that is bringing those thunderstorms in will become more widespread overnight into Sunday, and this is where we could see some really lively storms breaking out through Sunday morning. Could be pretty severe indeed in some southern and eastern areas as it slowly progresses northwards. During Sunday afternoon, those thunderstorms actually do decay away, and that small system moves away. So actually, Sunday morning doesn't look great, but by the afternoon into the evening, it actually looks like pretty decent conditions. Into Monday, we start to see a weather front trying to push in. Again, this is associated with a small area of low pressure, and again, could see some thunderstorms on that eastern flank. Could break out pretty severe there for northern and eastern areas, and eventually into Monday and Tuesday, we kind of see the worst possible pattern, which is Not too bad in terms of the upper air temperatures, but we see one of these small-scale low-pressure systems kind of sitting over the top of us, and that's where you can see the spiral appearing around sort of Northern Ireland and the Irish Sea, and lots of showers. If you do look at the mean sea level pressure here, you can see it's these small low-pressure systems sat just directly over the top of us within a large area of higher pressure. That is what is giving this precipitation, and if we do actually have a look at the air masses, you'll be able to see it's not actually that cold. There's actually quite a lot of warm air around. It's just that we're trapped under the slightly fresher air and the lower pressure. You can see though, if we go back a few days into Saturday and Sunday, we do have some very warm air in for at least a few days. So yeah, very warm and humid until probably Monday into Tuesday, and then it could go slightly fresher with that low pressure system. But again, I'm still a little bit skeptical of that, because all we need is a slight shift in positioning, and that low pressure is miles away. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see into Friday, temperatures very pleasant, widely high teens. Into low 20s, could see 23 or even 24. As we head into Saturday, similar conditions, 23, 24, and then into Sunday, where we avoid the thunderstorms, and by the time it's kind of clear during the afternoon, we could see mid to high 20s, 26, 27. There's a rogue 29 there across parts of Kent. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Into Monday, as expected, it does go slightly fresher. Still could see high 20, mid 20s in the east, but it is starting cooler, and that's inevitable with that small low pressure system moving in. And the same could be said for Tuesday. Still warm and humid in places, but where we have rain, cloud, more towards the mid to even low teens. So we'll have to wait and see how next week plays out. Still looks like there will be plenty of warm air around. It's just whether we get trapped under one of these low pressure systems, then we could see slightly worse conditions. We'll have to wait and see exactly how it does play out. But for the time being, it looks like it's turning warm, humid, but unfortunately quite a bit thundery into next week. And if you look at the latest GFS now and have a look at those longer term prospects, you can see high pressure is building in for the weekend. However, we do see that high pressure slowly nudge eastwards, and this is where we start to bring up those slightly unsettled conditions with small scale low pressure. Now, it's very difficult to detect here, and you can hardly see it at this sort of macro view, but there is a small area of low pressure in there, and that gives it thunderstorms through Sunday morning. And that's why ideally in these sort of scenarios, you want the high pressure slap bang over the top of us, where we're kind of in between two areas of high pressure, one extending from the Azores, one towards Scandinavia. We're kind of in this little trough in the middle, and that's a breeding ground for these small areas of lower pressure. And unfortunately, that's what we see in the subsequent days, small little lows moving in. Now, one positive here is in the longer range, we do see more high pressure extend over the top of us, but still these small low pressure systems close by, which would kind of ruin any persistent dry conditions. It'd still be pleasant, still see plenty of dry conditions. It just unfortunately will be sprinkled in among some unsettled and thundery days. And that's just what happens this time of year, unfortunately, as we do start to see more activity, low pressure systems become more abundant, as we do start to see that jet stream powering up. The temperature contrast across the North Atlantic is starting to ramp up as well, and that's going to power up these lows. If we actually do pull on those upper air temperatures, you can see cold air is starting to sit across Greenland, start to wrap in to the northern and western edges of these lows, and that is what is going to whip up these low pressure systems. And that's why generally into the autumn it becomes more unsettled, and that is all because of that temperature contrast and the jet stream powering up. And we could be seeing that sort of influence trying to interject itself into this more high pressure dominated pattern that's trying to set up. But it does look like it could be struggling to completely dominate, at least for our shores. If you look at the GM, again, it's broadly similar. High pressure building in. We kind of sit in between two areas of high pressure, and that's why we see these small scale lows moving in. But as we head towards day 10, another low right down the east coast. But eventually at day 10, we do see high pressure building in, but more of a pesky low sat there towards northern Italy in the Alps. And it actually goes warm, but has the risk of some thunderstorms in the southeast. If we put on the precipitation, you can see some small chance of heavy thundery showers moving in. But again, it's one we have to keep an eye on. So GM, fairly similar to the GFS, but it has that low pressure systems further south and eastwards across more of Central Europe, and that actually kind of puts us more towards the centre of the high extending from the Azores, and we stay a little bit dry here in the longer range. Still very, very much on a knife edge. Little movements, and we could see drastically different conditions. But that's unfortunately what we have to sort of play with in these sort of scenarios. A few 100 miles difference in the positioning of these lows makes all the difference, whether we see heavy thunder showers, persistent rain, or absolutely nothing. Now finally, if we compare to the ECMWF, again, broadly very similar, high pressure building in, kind of in between two highs into Sunday and Monday, and that's where it's going slightly more unsettled. But as we head beyond that, those lows eventually sink to our south and high pressure starts to build in. Now it's actually very similar to the GEM, where we do have low pressure nearby, but with higher pressure extending over the top of us. But instead of the high pressure coming from the Azores, it's coming from Scandinavia. So it's actually pumping a southeasterly wind. So here, it does go very dry and potentially very hot for a time before eventually low pressure does swing back in. So you can see three runs all very similar with their macro look. With the areas of high pressure, areas of low pressure, but it's all exactly where they sit, the strengths and shapes of these systems, all meaning that we've got three very different outcomes at the surface. GFX, very mixed, but more unsettled. GEM actually ends up drier with that low pressure to our southeast, and Eastern WF has it sat out to our west initially before pushing in, before it pushes in, drawing up some incredibly hot air from the south. It'll be very interesting to watch, as this could have drastic differences in conditions into next week and the following week. But still, that overall trend of generally warmer conditions does look quite likely. You see, none of these runs here have really gone cold at all. They're all average to above average. The GFS may be the only one that's slightly fresher. If we actually run back to that, you can see there's actually a cold pool under the high pressure here. So as we'll see from the ensembles in a minute, it does go cold, but it's not really a massive issue. It's kind of this temporary little cold pool that we see coming in from the northeast. Again, a consequence of us moving into autumn. If you finish by looking at the ensembles, if we look at the latest GFS, big rise in upper air temperatures over the next couple of days, as we do see that big spike in heat coming up from the south. Then drops towards average, but generally we look above average through the first week of September, but increased precipitation, unfortunately. You see longer range, we still remain average to above average. That warmer trend does continue, but you can see the very cold GFS run there, and that's all because of that cold pool. So we can kind of discount that as again, it is all about very small areas of cold air that tries to push it. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how it does play out, but the overall macro look is very similar, and it's been pretty consistent over the past few days, even the past week. But it's all about those small scale lows and how they interact with our shores. If you finish just from the ensembles by looking at the ECMWF, broadly very, very similar. Heat building as we head into this weekend. It starts from next week. Briefly cooler for a couple of days, and then potentially another spike of heat, and that's that southeasterly wind that the ECMWF was very persistent in showing. Now, upper air temperatures here are very good. The only caveat is there's a lot of precipitation. So very much on board with warm, humid, maybe even hot at times, but could be unsettled, and when we have humidity, brings an increased risk of some pretty severe thunderstorms. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how it does play out. But yeah, it could be a pretty thundery pattern over the next week to 2 weeks. Starting to get glimpses of it for Sunday and Monday, but we'll have to see what is in store for the rest of next week and into the following weekend. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. I'll have another update out tomorrow, looking at this in a little bit more detail again. Hopefully, with a bit more knowledge on what's going to happen with those thunderstorms Sunday, Monday. But I'll see you again for another video soon.